negative emotions can take over your words before you even notice what is happening. One small moment can turn into a harsh reply. One bad feeling can ruin an entire day. And when that keeps happening, peace becomes harder to protect and self-respect becomes easier to lose. This audiobook is about learning a better way. It is about slowing down before you speak. It is about staying clear when anger rises. It is about protecting your mind from habits that drain your energy and damage your life. You will hear practical lessons on how to control emotional reactions, build inner strength, and stop letting temporary feelings decide long-term outcomes. There is real power in learning how to stay calm under pressure. You feel more steady. You think more clearly. You speak with more purpose. You make choices you do not regret later. That kind of discipline can change the way you live every day. If you have ever wished you could respond better when life gets heavy, this is for you. Stay with this audiobook, because the lessons ahead may help you think differently, act differently, and become stronger from the inside out. Chapter 1. Control negative emotions before they control your life. Negative emotions are part of being human. Everyone feels frustration. Everyone feels hurt. Everyone feels fear. Everyone feels disappointment. The problem is not that these emotions appear. The problem begins when they start leading your words, your choices, and your days. A person does not lose strength only in a great collapse. Many people lose strength in small moments, a sharp reply, a cold silence used to punish someone, a complaint repeated again and again until it becomes a habit. A face that shows anger before the mind has even understood what happened. These moments may look small, but they shape the kind of life a person builds. There is a deep kind of freedom in learning how to control negative emotions before they control your life. This is not about pretending you are fine when you are not. It is not about hiding pain so well that no one notices. It is not about becoming cold or empty. It is about gaining enough discipline to feel deeply without becoming ruled by every feeling. That difference matters more than most people realize. A person who cannot govern the inside will struggle to govern anything outside. Relationships become unstable. Work becomes inconsistent. Confidence weakens. Peace disappears. Decisions become emotional instead of wise. Life gets smaller because the mind becomes louder. The first lesson is simple. A feeling is not a command. This is one of the most important truths a person can learn. You may feel anger, but you do not have to speak in anger. You may feel rejected, but you do not have to collapse into self-pity. You may feel ashamed, but you do not have to hide from life. A feeling arrives. It moves through the body. It creates heat, tension, pressure, or pain. Then it asks for action. That is the moment where character is built. The pause between feeling and action is where your future is decided. If you can create even a small pause, you gain power. In that small pause, you can breathe. You can think. You can choose. You can refuse to hand your life over to the strongest emotion in the room. This kind of control begins with attention. Many people are not ruined by emotion itself, but by how quickly they react without noticing what is happening. Anger often grows when it is ignored at first. Anxiety grows when it is fed with endless imagined worst cases. Hurt grows when it is left to simmer without honest reflection. The earlier you notice what is happening inside you, the easier it becomes to guide yourself. Pay attention to the first signs: a tight jaw, faster breathing, a racing mind, a desire to interrupt, a sudden urge to send a message you may regret. These are not small details, they are signals. Your body often speaks before your words do. When you learn to read those signals, you become much harder to control. One practical habit can change a great deal. When a strong negative emotion rises, do not speak immediately. Do not send the message. Do not make the call. Do not write the post. Give yourself time. Even 10 slow breaths can lower the intensity enough for wisdom to return. Step away from the room if needed. Drink water. Wash your face. Sit in silence for a few minutes. This is not weakness. This is discipline. It is far better to delay a harsh reaction than to repair the damage it creates. Some of the worst mistakes in life happen because people wanted instant relief more than lasting peace. The wise person learns to value lasting peace. There is also great value in naming your emotion clearly. Many people say they are fine when they are not. Others say they are angry when what they really feel is humiliation. Some say they are upset when what they really feel is fear of being left out. When you cannot name the feeling clearly, it can spread in confusing ways. But when you say to yourself, I am hurt, or I am frustrated, or I am embarrassed, or I am afraid, something changes. The emotion becomes easier to understand. It no longer feels like a storm with no shape. It becomes a condition you can work with. Honest naming brings order. Order creates calm. Calm makes self-control possible. A strong person does not fear discomfort. A strong person learns how to stay present with discomfort without turning it into drama. That is an important difference. Negative emotions often become more dangerous when a person builds a story around them. Someone ignores me. Nobody respects me. Everything always goes wrong. I never get what I want. These thoughts may feel true in the moment, but they often grow far beyond the facts. They make the emotion larger than the event. They create suffering on top of suffering. Stoic wisdom teaches that the event may be outside your control, but the judgment you place on it is within your control. You may not control every blow life gives you, but you can control the meaning you assign to it. That power is real and it can be trained. Training begins with how you speak to yourself when emotions rise. Many people are harsher inside than they ever are out loud. They insult themselves. They call themselves weak. They say they should be over it by now. They shame themselves for having feelings at all. That inner attack does not produce strength. It produces confusion and more pain. A better approach is firm and honest. You can say, this is difficult, and I will handle it carefully. You can say, I am upset, and I do not need to make this worse. You can say, I do not like how I feel right now, but I still choose my conduct. This kind of self-talk is not soft. It is disciplined. It keeps you steady without denying the truth. Daily discipline matters because emotions are shaped by habits. A tired body reacts faster. A restless mind sees threats everywhere. A disorganized life leaves no space for calm. When sleep is poor, food is poor, and the mind is overloaded with noise, every feeling becomes harder to manage. That is why emotional control is not only a mental practice. It is also a physical and practical one. Go to bed at a steady time. Eat in a way that keeps your energy stable. Move your body every day. Reduce the amount of useless noise you consume. Protect your attention. A peaceful mind is easier to build in a peaceful environment. If your entire day is filled with pressure and distraction, your emotions will have less room to settle. There is wisdom in learning to delay your response. A delay gives your mind time to catch up with your feelings. When someone insults you, the first impulse may be to strike back with words. When a plan fails, the first impulse may be to blame someone or declare defeat. When you feel left behind, the first impulse may be jealousy or resentment. Delaying the response allows a deeper part of you to speak. That deeper part is not loud, it is steady. It knows that not every battle deserves attention. It knows that not every wound needs an audience. It knows that silence can be stronger than noise. You do not need to prove your pain every time you feel it. One of the most powerful habits for emotional control is learning to observe rather than absorb. When a negative emotion comes, watch it without becoming it. Notice the anger instead of becoming an angry person. Notice the anxiety instead of becoming an anxious identity. Notice the sadness instead of turning sadness into your whole story. Emotions move. They rise and fall. They are not permanent identities. This awareness creates distance, and distance creates freedom. A person who is trapped inside every feeling has no room to choose. A person who can observe has room to act wisely. Real life will test this in ordinary moments. Someone cuts in front of you. A coworker takes credit for work you did. A family member says something unfair. A friend forgets something important. A plan collapses. Money feels tight. Respect is slow to come. In these moments, the mind often wants immediate release. It wants to strike back. It wants to complain loudly. It wants to turn hurt into a scene. But ask what that action will produce tomorrow. Will it fix the problem or just spread it? Will it protect your dignity or weaken it? Will it make you respected or simply noticed? Emotional control is not about appearing calm while hiding chaos. It is about using calm to protect your future. There are times when speaking is necessary. There are times when setting a boundary is wise. There are times when a wrong must be addressed directly. But even then, the goal is not to pour out raw emotion in uncontrolled form. The goal is to speak with clarity, speak after reflection, speak without insult, speak without revenge. Speak in a way that increases truth rather than chaos. A person who can express difficulty without losing self-command is far more powerful than a person who explodes. You do not need to be loud to be clear. You do not need to be harsh to be firm. The strongest voice is often the one that stays steady. It helps to understand that not every negative feeling should be acted on. Some feelings are warnings. Some are reminders. Some are old wounds returning in new clothing. If you have a hard day and suddenly feel like everyone is against you, that feeling may not reflect the full truth. If one person disappoints you and you feel like giving up on all people, that feeling may be larger than the event. If you fail once and feel worthless, that feeling may be mixing pain with exaggeration. You can respect the feeling without obeying its worst conclusion. This is how maturity grows. Maturity does not erase emotion. It places emotion in its proper place. A practical way to strengthen this skill is to create a private review at the end of the day. Ask yourself, where did my emotions control me today? When did I react too fast? When did I stay steady? What triggered me? What helped me settle? This honest reflection builds self-knowledge. It teaches you to spot patterns. Maybe certain people activate you. Maybe being hungry makes you more irritable. Maybe social media leaves you restless. Maybe fatigue makes small problems feel huge. Once you know the pattern, you can prepare for it. A person cannot improve what he refuses to study. Self-awareness is not a luxury. It is the beginning of freedom. Another truth must be remembered. Expressing every negative emotion is not the same as being authentic. Some people believe that honesty means unloading everything they feel the moment they feel it. That is not wisdom. That is often impulse dressed as truth. Real honesty includes restraint. Real maturity asks what is useful to say and what is better left unspoken. There are feelings that should be processed privately before they are shared publicly. There are moments when silence protects relationships that careless words would damage. There are moments when speaking too quickly turns a small pain into a lasting wound. A disciplined person learns that not every feeling needs an audience. You can also build strength by choosing what kind of person you want to be during difficult moments. Not on easy days, on hard days. The real character of a person appears when there is pressure, when plans fail, when people are unfair, when the mood is low, when the body is tired, when no one is praising you. In those moments, ask, what would the disciplined version of me do now? What would the wise version of me do now? What would the calm version of me do now? This question creates direction. It moves you out of impulse and into principle. The point is not to become perfect. The point is to become deliberate. People often think emotional control will make life less alive. The opposite is usually true. When your emotions no longer drag you around every hour, you become more present. You hear people more clearly. You work with more focus. You rest with more peace. You enjoy simple things without mental noise. The sound of your own thoughts becomes less violent. The body softens. The day feels less heavy. You do not become less human. You become more stable in your humanity. Stability gives you room to love better, to work better, and to live better. It keeps your life from being built on temporary moods. Negative emotions can also be used as teachers. Anger may show you that a value has been crossed. Fear may show you that you need preparation. Sadness may show you that something matters deeply. Disappointment may remind you that expectation must be guided by reality. The goal is not to destroy the message. The goal is to receive it without being consumed by it. Every emotion has information. The wise person listens without becoming ruled by the intensity of the message. That is what self-mastery looks like in daily life. It is calm attention. It is careful response. It is the refusal to let temporary weather become permanent identity. This kind of life is built through small, repeated actions. You pause before speaking. You breathe before deciding. You write down what you feel instead of broadcasting it. You walk before you argue. You sleep before you judge everything. You wait before you text back in anger. You ask one honest question before making one harsh assumption. You stop feeding every thought that arrives. Over time, these small acts create a strong inner structure, and once that structure is there, you feel less fragile. You do not need perfect conditions to remain steady. You carry more order inside yourself. There will still be moments when you fail. There will still be days when you react badly. Do not use one failure as proof that growth is impossible. Use it as information. Study it. Learn from it. Return to your practice. A person grows stronger not by never falling, but by returning with more awareness each time. Shame says you are stuck. Discipline says you can improve. Shame keeps the wound open. Discipline begins to heal it. The goal is not to become someone who never feels negative emotion. The goal is to become someone who does not let negative emotion write the script of the day. Protecting your life from emotional control is also a way of protecting your future. Every unguarded reaction has consequences. A rude message can damage trust. A public outburst can weaken respect. A bitter habit can poison relationships. A pattern of complaint can make a person hard to be around. Over time, these things matter. They shape reputation. They shape peace. They shape opportunities. People are drawn to steadiness. They trust those who can remain composed when life is messy. Emotional discipline is not just private self-improvement. It affects how others experience you. A steady person gives others a sense of safety. That matters in family, work, friendship, and leadership. Still, the deepest reason to control negative emotions is not to impress anyone. It is to live with less inner conflict. It is to stop fighting your own mind all day. It is to wake up without carrying yesterday's bitterness into today. It is to stop giving your peace away every time something annoys you. It is to stop making every discomfort into a drama. It is to become someone whose life is guided by principles more than moods. That is real strength, not forced positivity, not emotional suppression. Just clear, grounded, disciplined living. When you begin to practice this seriously, you may notice something else. Your words change. You become less reactive and more thoughtful. Your face changes. You carry less strain. Your relationships change. There is less unnecessary conflict. Your work changes. You can focus longer. Your choices change. You regret fewer of them. Even your sense of time changes, because the day is no longer being broken apart by emotional chaos. This is the quiet reward of self-mastery. It does not always arrive with drama. Sometimes it arrives as peace. Sometimes it arrives as a cleaner conscience. Sometimes it arrives as a calmer home inside your own chest. So start where you are. Do not wait for a perfect week or a perfect mood. Notice the next negative emotion that rises and meet it with awareness. Pause before the reaction. Breathe before the reply. Name what you feel. Refuse to exaggerate it. Ask what response serves your values. Speak only when your words can help more than they can harm. Review your day with honesty. Strengthen your body and your habits so your mind has support. Keep practicing even when progress feels slow. The aim is not instant transformation. The aim is steady change. A life controlled by negative emotions becomes smaller every year. A life guided by discipline grows clearer every year. One path leads to regret because it gives the moment too much power. The other leads to respect because it gives wisdom time to speak. Choose the second path. Choose it in the morning before the stress begins. Choose it in the afternoon when your patience is thin. Choose it at night when old feelings return. Choose it again and again until it becomes part of who you are. When you control your emotions with discipline, you do more than protect your mood. You protect your character. You protect your peace. You protect your future. And that choice can change your whole life. Chapter 2. Transform anger into calm through daily discipline. Anger does not have to ruin your day when you learn how to meet it with discipline instead of impulse. Anger is one of the fastest emotions a person can feel. It rises suddenly, it tightens the chest, it sharpens the voice, it pushes the mind toward blame and the body toward action before wisdom has time to catch up. Many people think anger is a sign of strength because it feels intense. In truth, anger often becomes dangerous when it is unmanaged because it convinces a person to act quickly without thinking clearly. The goal is not to erase anger from your life. The goal is to train yourself so that anger does not decide your behavior. That training is built through daily discipline, repeated every day until calm becomes your natural response. A disciplined person understands that anger is a signal, not a leader. It signals that something feels unfair, disappointing, disrespectful, or painful. That signal deserves attention, but it does not deserve total control. When anger appears, the first task is to slow everything down. Do not rush to speak. Do not rush to judge. Do not rush to send a message. Give your mind a few seconds to settle before you let your mouth or your hands act for you. Those few seconds can save a relationship, a reputation, and a great deal of regret. Calm is rarely accidental. It is practiced. One of the simplest daily disciplines is learning to pause before reacting. This pause is not passive. It is active control. When someone says something upsetting, take a breath and count slowly in your mind. When a plan falls apart, step back for a moment before deciding what it means. When frustration builds during the day, do not fight it by pretending it is not there. Recognize it and slow your body down. Your breathing affects your state more than many people realize. A steady breath tells the body that it does not need to stay in attack mode. That small habit can change the way anger moves through you. Daily discipline also means preparing your mind before anger even arrives. A person who is already exhausted, hungry, overstimulated, and mentally scattered is much more likely to explode. That is why calm is not built only in the middle of conflict. It is built in ordinary routines. Sleep enough to keep your mind clear. Eat in a way that supports your energy. Move your body so tension does not pile up. Reduce the noise that fills your head all day. If your life is constantly flooded with stress, anger will have an easier time taking root. A calmer life begins with calmer habits. It helps to examine what anger is really protecting. Often anger appears on top of something more vulnerable. Beneath anger there may be embarrassment. Beneath anger there may be fear. Beneath anger there may be sadness. Beneath anger there may be the feeling of not being respected or heard. If you stop at the anger, you only treat the surface. If you ask what is underneath, you begin to understand yourself more clearly. This understanding gives you power because you stop reacting blindly. A person who knows the real source of the emotion can respond more wisely than a person who only notices the fire on the outside. There is also discipline in how you speak to yourself when anger rises. Many people become more abusive inside their own minds than they would ever be toward another person. They tell themselves they are weak for feeling anger. They tell themselves they are bad people because they lost control. That kind of inner attack does not create peace. It adds shame, and shame often makes anger worse. A wiser response is firm and honest. Tell yourself that you are upset and that you do not need to make this worse. Tell yourself that you can handle the situation without damaging yourself or others. Tell yourself that calm is still available. This is not soft thinking. It is disciplined thinking. Another daily discipline is choosing the right environment for your mind. Anger grows faster in chaotic spaces. A messy room, constant conflict, too much noise, and non-stop digital stimulation all make it harder to stay steady. Clear the space around you when you can. Put order into the place where you spend time. Limit the things that leave you tense and irritated. Protect your attention from endless arguments and unhealthy content. What you feed your mind every day affects how quickly anger rises and how long it stays. A disciplined life is not only about willpower, It is about removing the things that weaken it. One powerful habit is to delay your response until the emotional wave passes. Not every feeling needs an immediate answer. When you feel anger rise, wait before speaking. If you are in a conversation, ask for a short break if needed. If you are alone, write down your thoughts instead of releasing them in a heated way. Writing can expose how much of the anger is real and how much is temporary frustration. Many people are shocked when they see their own words on paper, because the feeling that seemed overwhelming in the moment often looks different after a pause. Discipline gives time for truth to appear. Calm is strengthened by learning to separate the person from the behavior. Not every mistake is an attack. Not every disagreement is disrespect. Not every delay is intentional. Not every weakness in another person is meant to hurt you. Anger often grows when the mind assumes the worst too quickly. A disciplined person asks for facts before making conclusions. This does not mean you ignore wrong behavior. It means you do not let your first interpretation rule your mind. Careful thinking lowers unnecessary anger and helps you respond with maturity. There is deep value in practicing calm during small irritations. Do not wait for a major crisis to train yourself. Use daily life as practice. Stay calm when the line is long. Stay calm when a person speaks slowly. Stay calm when a small mistake happens at home or work. Stay calm when plans change. Each small moment is a chance to strengthen your inner control. The more you practice in ordinary situations, the more prepared you will be when something serious happens. Calm is a skill, and skills grow through repetition. You will not always succeed perfectly, and that matters less than your willingness to return to the practice. Some days anger may still get the better of you. Do not answer one bad moment with hopelessness. Learn from it. Ask what triggered you. Ask what was happening in your body. Ask what thought made the feeling stronger, then adjust your routine. Progress is often made in review. A person who studies their own patterns becomes harder to control by them. Every honest review is a step toward mastery. Daily discipline also includes how you finish your day. Anger that is left unprocessed often carries into tomorrow. Before sleeping, take a few quiet minutes to release the mental weight of the day. Think about what upset you and decide not to carry unnecessary resentment through the night. Some people sleep with anger still active in the mind and wake up already tense. That weakens the body and the spirit. A clean ending to the day helps create a calmer beginning the next morning. Nightly reflection is a form of emotional hygiene. It keeps the mind from becoming crowded with unresolved frustration. Anger can also be transformed into useful action when it is handled properly. If something is unfair, let the anger push you toward a better boundary. If something needs to change, let the energy move you toward a clear decision. If someone crossed a line, let the emotion guide you to speak firmly and respectfully. Anger becomes dangerous when it is expressed recklessly. It becomes useful when it is directed wisely. Discipline turns raw emotion into controlled purpose. That is a much stronger use of energy than shouting, blaming, or breaking things in the heat of the moment. A calm person is not a person who never feels strong emotion. A calm person is someone who has trained the body and mind to remain steady while strong emotion moves through them. That training makes life easier to carry. It makes relationships healthier. It makes work more stable. It makes your decisions more respectable. People trust calm because calm creates safety. It gives others room to speak and think without fear. It also gives you room to live without being dragged around by every sudden feeling. If you want to build this kind of calm, begin with one disciplined choice today. Slow your breathing before your next reply. Step away before your next angry message. Sleep better tonight. Reduce one source of unnecessary tension. Reflect on one moment where you reacted too quickly. Speak to yourself with more honesty and less cruelty. These small acts matter more than dramatic promises. A disciplined life is built from ordinary choices repeated with care. Over time you will notice that anger still comes, but it no longer owns you. The same situations will no longer move you as easily. Your words will carry more weight because they will come from thought instead of impulse. Your mind will feel less crowded. Your body will feel less tense. Your spirit will feel stronger because it is no longer spending so much energy in conflict with itself. That is the quiet reward of daily discipline. It teaches you how to hold your ground without losing your peace. The person who learns to transform anger into calm does not become weak. That person becomes reliable, stable, clear, strong in a way that does not depend on noise. And that kind of strength changes everything. Chapter 3. Master emotional reactions to build lasting strength. Your greatest strength will never come from controlling the world around you, but from controlling your reactions when the world refuses to go your way. Many people spend years trying to fix everything outside themselves. They try to control people. They try to control outcomes. They try to avoid discomfort. They try to build a life where nothing unexpected happens. Yet life continues to surprise them. Plans fail. Trust breaks. Delays happen. Opportunities disappear. Criticism appears without warning. If your emotional state depends entirely on external conditions, then your peace will always be temporary. Real strength begins when your stability no longer depends on everything going well. Emotional reactions are powerful because they often happen before logic arrives. Something happens and the body responds immediately. The heartbeat changes, thoughts speed up, the muscles tighten. Attention narrows, the reaction feels automatic. Many people live for years believing they are simply the kind of person who overreacts. They say, "This is just who I am." They believe their patterns cannot change. But patterns are not identities. A habit repeated many times can feel permanent, yet habits can be trained. Emotional mastery is not reserved for a few naturally calm people. It is built through awareness and repetition. The first thing to understand is that emotional reactions are often shaped by old experiences. Sometimes a small event triggers a large response because the feeling is connected to something deeper. A delayed reply from someone may create anxiety because you have experienced rejection before. A disagreement may create unusual anger because you learned early in life that conflict meant danger. Criticism may hurt more than expected because approval became linked to self-worth. The present moment is not always carrying the full weight of the reaction. Sometimes the past quietly joins the conversation. Understanding this changes everything because it creates curiosity instead of judgment. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" ask, "What is this reaction trying to protect?" That question opens a door. It shifts the focus from shame toward understanding. Emotional growth becomes possible when you stop fighting your own experiences and start learning from them. Awareness creates options. Without awareness, people repeat the same reactions for decades and wonder why life feels heavy. There is a difference between experiencing an emotion and surrendering to it. Fear may arrive without permission. Disappointment may appear unexpectedly. Frustration may rise quickly. None of these experiences make you weak. The problem begins when every emotion becomes a command. A strong person learns to experience intense feelings without immediately obeying them. This ability changes relationships, careers, and personal peace in ways that are difficult to measure. Think about someone who receives criticism. One person reacts instantly with defensiveness. Another becomes silent for days. Another attacks back. Another listens carefully and separates useful feedback from unnecessary negativity. The same event produces different outcomes because internal discipline differs. Strength is not shown by avoiding emotional discomfort. Strength is shown by remaining thoughtful while discomfort exists. One practice that builds lasting strength is creating space between stimulus and response. That space may be small at first. It might only be a few seconds. But even a few seconds can prevent years of regret. During that space, ask simple questions. What exactly happened? What assumptions am I making? What outcome do I want from my response? These questions slow impulsive behavior and invite wisdom into the moment. The mind becomes less crowded when it stops rushing toward immediate conclusions. Many emotional reactions grow stronger because people feed them with repeated mental stories. An uncomfortable event happens once, but the mind relives it 20 times. The body continues reacting as if the situation is still happening. Resentment grows, fear grows, stress grows. The original event ends, but the internal experience continues. Lasting strength requires learning when to stop replaying what cannot be changed. Reflection helps growth. Repetition without purpose often deepens suffering. This does not mean ignoring pain. It means handling pain carefully. There is a difference between processing an experience and becoming trapped inside it. Processing asks what can be learned. Trapping asks, why does this always happen to me? One approach creates movement. The other creates stagnation. Emotional mastery also depends on your relationship with uncertainty. Many people react strongly because they need guarantees. They want certainty before acting. They want assurance before trusting. They want promises about outcomes. Life rarely offers complete certainty. Waiting for perfect security often produces anxiety because reality refuses to cooperate. Strength develops when you become willing to move forward, despite incomplete information. Calm grows when uncertainty becomes something you can tolerate, rather than something you fear. Another overlooked source of emotional instability is comparison. Constant comparison quietly damages peace. Watching others appear successful can create frustration. Seeing others praised may trigger insecurity. Observing someone move ahead faster can create bitterness. Comparison turns attention outward and weakens connection with your own path. Emotional discipline asks a different question. Instead of asking, how am I doing compared to others, ask, who am I becoming through my choices? Growth becomes clearer when measured against your previous self rather than another person's appearance. People often underestimate the role of personal responsibility in emotional strength. Responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for every difficulty. It means recognizing where your influence begins. You cannot choose every event. You can choose habits. You can choose interpretation. You can choose whether pain becomes wisdom or resentment. Responsibility feels heavy at first because it removes excuses. Yet it also creates freedom because it returns power to your hands. The way you begin your mornings affects emotional reactions more than most realize. Waking up and immediately consuming stress through notifications, arguments, or endless information trains the mind toward agitation. Starting the day with intention changes internal momentum. Quiet reflection. Reading something meaningful. Moving your body. Sitting without distraction for a few minutes. These actions create stability before demands arrive. Emotional strength is often built before challenges appear. Small promises to yourself matter deeply. If you repeatedly break your own commitments, trust in yourself weakens. You begin doubting your ability to stay consistent. That doubt spreads into emotional life. Keeping simple promises strengthens internal confidence. Finish tasks you said you would finish. Show up when you plan to show up. Follow through on routines. Self-respect grows when actions become dependable. A person who trusts themselves reacts differently under pressure. Another truth deserves attention. Not every emotional reaction requires expression. Modern culture sometimes treats immediate expression as the highest form of authenticity. Yet wisdom understands timing. There are moments when speaking immediately creates confusion rather than clarity. Reflection often improves communication. A carefully chosen response carries more weight than an uncontrolled release of emotion. Silence used wisely is not avoidance. It is restraint guided by purpose. Strength also appears in the ability to recover. Recovery matters because no one responds perfectly all the time. There will be moments of impatience, moments of fear, moments where emotions lead more than they should. Lasting strength is not built by perfection. It is built by returning to awareness, returning to discipline, returning to values, returning to the person you are trying to become. Recovery transforms mistakes into instruction. The body remembers emotional patterns. Years of stress create tension. Years of fear create vigilance. Years of suppressing emotions create heaviness. Healing often requires patience because the nervous system needs time to learn safety again. Growth may feel slower than expected. Do not mistake slow progress for failure. Some of the deepest changes happen quietly. The reaction that once lasted days begins lasting hours. Then minutes, then eventually it passes with less disruption. Small improvements deserve respect because they create long-term transformation. The people around you influence your emotional habits more than you may notice. Constant exposure to negativity normalizes reactivity. Environments filled with blame encourage blame. Relationships built on instability increase instability. Pay attention to what becomes normal in your surroundings. Emotional strength grows more easily in spaces where accountability, honesty, and calm are valued. Protecting your environment is part of protecting your mind. There is also value in choosing discomfort intentionally. Difficult conversations, challenging responsibilities, new experiences, honest self-examination, avoiding all discomfort weakens resilience. Facing manageable difficulty builds capacity. Each challenge survived becomes evidence that you can endure more than fear suggested. Confidence develops through experience, not imagination. At some point you may realize something important. The strongest people are often not the loudest or most forceful. They are steady. Their reactions are measured. Their presence feels reliable. They do not need constant validation because their foundation exists inside them. They remain thoughtful when circumstances become chaotic. That steadiness influences everyone around them. Calm spreads just as quickly as panic when practiced consistently. Imagine living without being controlled by every passing emotion. Imagine disappointment arriving without destroying your confidence. Imagine criticism appearing without breaking your sense of worth. Imagine uncertainty existing without stealing your peace. This does not mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming grounded. Grounded people still feel deeply. They simply refuse to abandon themselves during difficult moments. Mastering emotional reactions is not a destination reached once and kept forever. It is a practice repeated throughout life. Each day provides opportunities to strengthen it. Every inconvenience becomes training. Every conflict becomes information. Every disappointment becomes a chance to respond differently. Growth hides inside ordinary moments more often than dramatic ones. Your lasting strength will not be measured by how many victories you collect or how impressive you appear when conditions are favorable. It will be measured by who you become when challenged. It will be measured by your ability to remain clear when confused, patient when pressured, and disciplined when emotions demand immediate control. That kind of strength cannot be taken away by criticism, failure, delays, or temporary pain, because it was built internally. And once inner strength becomes stronger than external noise, life begins to feel different. Not easier in every way, but steadier. Not free from problems, but less controlled by them. That is the quiet power of emotional mastery. It stays with you long after temporary feelings have passed. Chapter 4. Stop expressing negativity and protect your inner peace. The moment you stop giving negativity a voice in every difficult situation is the moment your inner peace begins to grow stronger than your problems. Many people believe negativity is only something they feel. In reality, negativity often becomes something they practice. It becomes part of everyday language. Complaints become normal. Frustration becomes a routine response. Criticism becomes easier than understanding. Over time, these reactions stop feeling unusual and start feeling like personality. That is where danger begins. Repeated negativity slowly changes how a person sees life. It changes expectations, it changes energy, it changes relationships. Eventually, a person may not even realize how much of their inner world has been shaped by habits of negative expression. Mental peace is rarely destroyed all at once. It often disappears through small daily leaks. A harsh comment spoken in irritation. Constant focus on what is missing. Endless replaying of unfair situations. The habit of expecting disappointment before anything even happens. These patterns seem ordinary because they happen quietly, yet their effect builds over years. A restless mind becomes familiar. Tension feels normal. Calm starts feeling unfamiliar. Protecting inner peace requires understanding something difficult. Not every thought deserves to be spoken. Not every emotion deserves immediate expression. Not every irritation deserves attention. Wisdom grows when a person learns to ask whether expressing negativity will improve the situation or simply spread discomfort further. There is a difference between honest communication and uncontrolled release. One builds understanding. The other often creates damage. Many people use negative expression as temporary relief. Complaining may feel satisfying for a moment. Blaming someone may reduce discomfort briefly. Speaking harshly may create a short sense of power. Yet, temporary relief often creates long-term consequences. The problem remains. Relationships become strained. Respect weakens. Mental habits deepen. What felt helpful in the moment becomes costly over time. Imagine carrying a container filled with water throughout the day. Every negative reaction removes a little more. Every unnecessary argument removes more. Every complaint empties part of it. By evening, the container feels almost empty, and you wonder why exhaustion follows you. Inner peace works in a similar way. Energy leaves through repeated emotional waste. Protecting peace means learning where your energy goes. This does not mean pretending everything is positive. False positivity creates pressure because it ignores reality. Pain exists. Difficulty exists. Disappointment exists. The goal is not denial. The goal is choosing responses carefully. Strength appears when honesty and restraint exist together. You can recognize hardship without turning hardship into identity. One important question can change many situations. Before expressing negativity, ask yourself what result you want. Do you want understanding? Do you want resolution? Do you want support? Or do you simply want to release discomfort without considering consequences? This question introduces responsibility. It interrupts automatic reactions. It turns expression into choice rather than impulse. The words people repeat become familiar pathways in the mind. If someone constantly says life is unfair, attention begins searching for proof. If someone repeatedly expects failure, hope becomes weaker. If someone regularly describes people as disappointing, trust becomes harder. Language influences perception. Perception influences emotional experience. That is why protecting inner peace includes observing your own speech patterns. There is power in replacing constant complaint with curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" ask, "What can this situation teach me?" Instead of focusing immediately on inconvenience, ask what remains within your control. Curiosity softens resistance. It creates movement where negativity creates stagnation. Many emotional wounds remain open because people revisit them repeatedly through conversation. They tell the same painful story many times. They relive betrayal, they repeat disappointments. They strengthen the emotional connection to old experiences. Sharing pain has value when healing is the goal. Repetition without growth often keeps suffering active. Healing asks different questions than rumination. Protecting peace also means becoming selective about what enters your mind. Constant exposure to outrage trains attention toward conflict. Endless arguments train expectation toward division. Information consumed daily affects emotional climate. Some people spend hours absorbing negativity and then wonder why calm feels distant. Attention is valuable. Guard it carefully. Silence has a reputation for weakness in some environments. Yet silence used wisely often protects dignity. There are moments when refusing to react immediately demonstrates more strength than any response. A person secure within themselves does not need to answer every criticism or participate in every conflict. Not all invitations deserve acceptance, especially invitations into unnecessary emotional battles. One hidden source of negativity comes from unrealistic expectations. Expecting perfection from people creates frequent disappointment. Expecting life to move exactly according to plan creates frustration. Expecting constant comfort creates resentment toward ordinary difficulty. Adjusting expectations does not lower standards, it creates room for reality. Peace grows when expectations become balanced with understanding. Gratitude may sound simple, but practiced sincerely, it changes attention. A grateful mind notices resources alongside problems. It notices support alongside pressure. It notices opportunities alongside obstacles. Gratitude does not erase struggle, it widens perspective. Negativity narrows focus until only difficulty remains visible. Gratitude restores proportion. There is also wisdom in noticing emotional contagion. Moods spread between people. One person's bitterness influences conversations. Constant pessimism affects environments. Repeated negativity changes atmosphere. Protecting your peace sometimes requires distance from patterns that repeatedly pull you toward heaviness. This does not mean abandoning people during difficulty. It means recognizing the effect prolonged negativity has on your own stability. Self-respect grows when you stop using negativity as your primary response to discomfort. Responding thoughtfully builds trust in yourself. You begin seeing evidence that difficult moments do not automatically control your behavior. Confidence increases because discipline strengthens. Over time, emotional steadiness becomes more familiar than emotional chaos. Another practice worth developing is observing moments when negativity appears strongest. Patterns exist. Perhaps frustration increases during exhaustion. Perhaps criticism feels sharper during stress. Perhaps impatience grows when routines disappear. Identifying conditions connected to negativity creates preparation. Awareness reduces surprise. Prepared minds respond differently than reactive minds. Some people fear that reducing negativity will make them passive. They worry calm means accepting everything silently. True peace is not passive. Peace includes boundaries. Peace includes clear decisions. Peace includes saying no when necessary. The difference lies in the emotional state guiding those actions. Boundaries built from clarity feel different than boundaries built from bitterness. The relationship you maintain with yourself matters greatly here. If your internal dialogue is constantly critical, negativity becomes easier to express outwardly. Harsh self-judgment rarely stays contained. It influences interactions. It shapes interpretation. Learning to speak internally with honesty instead of cruelty changes emotional habits, slowly but deeply. Recovery after difficult moments deserves attention too. If you react negatively, avoid turning one mistake into evidence of failure. Reflection teaches more than self-punishment. Ask what happened. Ask what need existed beneath the reaction. Ask what response might serve better next time. Growth depends on learning rather than condemnation. Protecting inner peace requires accepting something uncomfortable. You cannot control whether others behave unfairly. You cannot guarantee appreciation. You cannot eliminate uncertainty. Waiting for ideal circumstances before becoming peaceful creates endless delay. Peace becomes stronger when practiced during imperfection, rather than postponed until conditions improve. There are individuals who carry calm into challenging spaces. Their presence feels steady. Conversations become less tense around them. Difficult situations seem more manageable. Their influence does not come from avoiding hardship. It comes from refusing to multiply hardship through unnecessary negativity. That quality develops through repeated choices, not personality alone. Think about how much energy becomes available when negativity no longer dominates your responses. More attention remains for meaningful work. Relationships feel lighter. Decision-making improves. Rest becomes easier. Creativity returns. Emotional resources stop being consumed by cycles of complaint and reaction. Peace is not something discovered accidentally. It is protected intentionally, through speech, through habits, through attention, through discipline, through choosing responses aligned with values rather than temporary discomfort. Each decision either strengthens or weakens internal stability. Life will continue presenting challenges. Delays will happen. Misunderstandings will happen. Losses will happen. The question is whether every difficult experience receives additional weight through negative expression. Carrying pain is difficult enough without adding unnecessary burdens. A quieter mind does not mean an empty life. It often means a fuller one, full of clarity instead of noise, full of direction instead of confusion, full of strength that does not need constant display. Inner peace grows slowly through ordinary choices, repeated consistently. The day you stop treating negativity as proof of honesty and begin treating calm as proof of discipline, something changes within you. Reactions soften, perspective widens, relationships improve, challenges remain, yet they lose some of their power because your response becomes steadier. And eventually you may realize peace was never something waiting outside you. It was something protected each time you refused to let negativity become your voice. Chapter 5. Train your mind to respond without emotional damage. The strongest mind is not the one that never feels pressure, but the one that knows how to respond without leaving wounds behind. Life will always bring moments that test your patience. Someone speaks carelessly. A plan falls apart. A message arrives at the wrong time. A trusted person disappoints you. An unfair result lands in your lap. In those moments, the mind moves fast, and if it is not trained, it can turn a simple problem into a personal injury. Emotional damage often begins when reaction arrives before understanding. One sharp response can create regret. One rushed decision can create distance. One bitter thought can stay in the mind long after the moment is over. Training your mind to respond without emotional damage is one of the most valuable forms of self-respect a person can develop. This training begins with the simple habit of slowing down. A fast reaction feels powerful, but it usually comes from pressure, not wisdom. When the mind is under stress, it wants relief right away. It wants to defend itself, it wants to win, it wants to escape discomfort. That is why so many people speak too quickly or decide too quickly when they are upset. They are not trying to create harm, they are trying to end discomfort. Yet the cost of that relief is often greater than the problem itself. A trained mind learns that a moment of delay can protect a much larger future. One of the clearest ways to reduce emotional damage is to separate the event from the meaning you attach to it. A mistake at work is not always proof that you are failing. A delayed reply is not always a sign of rejection. A disagreement is not always disrespect. A bad day is not the same thing as a bad life. The mind often adds extra meaning to events because it wants quick explanations. But quick explanations are not always accurate. When you train yourself to ask what actually happened before deciding what it means, you reduce unnecessary pain. You stop turning every difficulty into a personal attack. It also helps to notice how your body reacts before your mind fully understands the situation. Tight shoulders, a hot face, a racing pulse, a clenched jaw. These are early signals that the body is preparing for conflict. If you ignore them, the reaction often grows stronger. If you notice them early, you can interrupt the chain. Take a breath, relax your hands, lower your voice. Step away for a short time if needed. These small actions are not insignificant. They are part of emotional training. They give your nervous system a chance to settle before words or decisions cause damage. A great deal of emotional harm comes from the need to answer everything immediately. The mind feels pressure to react right away because silence can feel uncomfortable. But silence is often the space where better judgment appears. You do not have to respond to every comment the moment you hear it. You do not have to explain yourself in the middle of your frustration. You do not have to prove your point while your emotions are still hot. There is strength in waiting long enough for your thoughts to become clear. In that waiting, damage is often prevented. Another important part of this discipline is learning to question your first interpretation. The first thought is often emotional, not accurate. Someone walks past you without greeting you, and the mind says they are ignoring you. A project gets criticized, and the mind says you are not good enough. A plan changes, and the mind says things always go wrong for you. These interpretations feel convincing because they arrive quickly. Yet quick does not mean true. A trained mind learns to pause and test the thought. Is this fact or assumption? Is this the whole picture or only part of it? Is this moment bigger than it really is? That kind of questioning protects your peace. There is also strength in knowing what not to carry. Not every comment deserves to live in your mind all day. Not every mistake should become part of your identity. Not every disappointment should be replayed until it becomes a story of failure. People often damage themselves by revisiting painful moments again and again. They keep opening the same wound with their own thoughts. Training the mind means learning when to reflect and when to release. Reflection helps growth. Repetition without purpose only deepens hurt. At some point, the wise choice is to close the door and move forward. One of the best ways to respond without emotional damage is to choose language carefully. The words you speak in a difficult moment can either protect your dignity or weaken it. Instead of saying things that make the conflict larger, speak in a way that keeps your mind steady. Use clear words. Use simple words. Avoid exaggeration. Avoid personal attacks. Avoid statements that trap you in your own anger. The more controlled your language becomes, the more controlled your internal state becomes. Calm speech is not weakness. It is disciplined power. The mind also needs practice with small frustrations, so it becomes stronger for larger ones. If you cannot remain calm when waiting in line or dealing with a small inconvenience, then bigger challenges will feel overwhelming. Daily life offers many chances to train. A slow driver, a delayed response, a minor mistake, a sudden change in schedule. These moments are not meaningless. They are training grounds. Every time you choose patience instead of irritation, you make it easier to respond well the next time. Calm is built by repetition, not by hope alone. It is equally important to protect your mind from unnecessary emotional overload. Not every problem needs immediate attention. Not every conversation needs to be joined. Not every feeling needs to be examined in the same hour it appears. A mind that never rests becomes more vulnerable to damage. Rest is not laziness, it is maintenance. Sleep well. Step away from constant noise. Give yourself time without pressure. The mind becomes more stable when it is not always being pulled in 100 directions. Self-respect grows when you stop treating every emotional reaction as something that must be expressed fully. Expression has its place, but uncontrolled expression often leaves scars. You can be honest without being reckless. You can be firm without being destructive. You can speak about hurt without pouring out more hurt. A trained mind knows the difference. It understands that the goal is not to release everything at once. The goal is to respond in a way that leaves you stronger, not smaller. There will be moments when you still react badly. That does not mean the work is failing. It means the work is real. Emotional training is not about becoming flawless. It is about shortening the distance between the trigger and the wiser response. Over time, that distance grows. You notice the anger faster. You catch the anxiety earlier. You recover more quickly. You stop staying wounded for as long. This is how growth looks in real life. It is often quiet. It is often slow. But it is powerful. A strong mind is not one that feels nothing. It is one that knows how to feel without falling apart. It knows how to receive hard news without collapsing. It knows how to face criticism without losing all confidence. It knows how to handle disappointment without turning bitter. That kind of strength can change the course of a life because it protects your energy. It keeps your decisions cleaner. It keeps your relationships safer. It keeps your future from being shaped by moments you did not need to let control you. Training your mind this way is a daily choice. It happens when you pause before replying. It happens when you question your assumptions. It happens when you refuse to turn pain into drama. It happens when you breathe instead of exploding. It happens when you allow time to make your thoughts wiser. Each of these choices builds a mind that responds with clarity instead of damage. And when your mind learns that skill, your whole life becomes more stable, more peaceful, and more under your control. Chapter 6. Replace emotional outbursts with thoughtful, powerful actions. The moment you stop reacting emotionally to every challenge and start responding with deliberate action is the moment your life begins to move in a different direction. Many people believe strength appears in loud reactions. They think intensity proves conviction. They think emotional expression proves honesty. Yet some of the most damaging decisions in life are made during moments of emotional overflow. A person leaves a relationship out of anger and regrets it later. Someone destroys trust with a few careless words spoken in frustration. Another person abandons goals because disappointment feels too heavy. Emotions are real, but they are not always wise. A feeling can be urgent without being accurate. That is why powerful lives are not built on emotional outbursts. They are built on thoughtful actions repeated consistently over time. An emotional outburst often creates the illusion of control. In the moment, expressing everything may feel relieving. The pressure lowers briefly. The tension releases. But relief and resolution are different things. Temporary release may leave behind damaged connections, weakened opportunities, or lasting regret. A thoughtful action may not provide instant comfort, yet it often produces better outcomes. This is one of the hardest truths to accept, because the disciplined path rarely gives immediate emotional reward. Think about moments when people disappoint you. The first impulse may be to confront harshly, withdraw completely, or make permanent decisions based on temporary pain. But thoughtful action asks different questions. What response protects my dignity? What response aligns with my values? What response improves the situation rather than deepening conflict? These questions shift attention away from reaction and toward responsibility. Responsibility changes everything, because it reminds you that while emotions arrive naturally, behavior remains a choice. This idea can feel uncomfortable. Many prefer believing reactions are unavoidable because that removes accountability. Yet freedom begins where responsibility begins. Once you accept that your response belongs to you, growth becomes possible. Training yourself toward thoughtful action requires noticing emotional momentum early. Outbursts rarely appear without warning. Irritation builds, pressure increases, fatigue accumulates, expectations collapse, signals appear before explosions happen. Learning your personal warning signs matters. Perhaps impatience increases when sleep decreases. Perhaps criticism becomes harder to tolerate during stress. Perhaps silence from others triggers insecurity. Awareness of patterns creates preparation. Prepared minds respond differently than surprised minds. Preparation does not eliminate emotion. It reduces the chance of becoming controlled by it. There is strength in becoming slower internally. Modern life encourages immediate reaction, instant messages, immediate opinions, constant updates. Quick responses are praised, yet wisdom often develops in pauses. A pause allows perspective to return. A pause interrupts impulsive behavior. A pause protects long-term goals from short-term feelings. Many people underestimate the power of writing before acting. When emotions feel intense, write thoughts privately instead of expressing them publicly. Writing creates distance. Patterns become visible. Assumptions appear more clearly. Feelings that seemed overwhelming may lose intensity when observed calmly. Reflection transforms raw emotion into information. Thoughtful action often appears ordinary. It may look like walking away from an argument temporarily. It may mean postponing an important conversation until calm returns. It may involve asking questions instead of making accusations. It may require admitting uncertainty rather than pretending confidence. These actions do not appear dramatic, yet they create stability. Stability has become rare because many people confuse emotional intensity with authenticity. They believe every feeling must be expressed immediately to remain honest. Yet maturity understands timing. Maturity recognizes that truth delivered without discipline often becomes harm. Honest communication and emotional dumping are not identical. There is another hidden cost to repeated outbursts. Over time they shape identity. Someone begins seeing themselves as naturally reactive, difficult or unstable under pressure. This belief becomes self-reinforcing. Future reactions feel inevitable because identity has absorbed the pattern. Breaking this cycle requires evidence. Evidence comes through small moments where different choices are made. Every thoughtful response weakens the old story. People frequently search for confidence without recognizing one important source. Confidence grows when you trust your ability to handle difficult emotions constructively. Self-trust develops through experience. When you repeatedly prove to yourself that frustration will not automatically control your behavior, inner stability strengthens. You begin relying less on external circumstances for peace. Discomfort deserves a different relationship too. Emotional outbursts often happen because discomfort feels unbearable. The mind wants immediate escape, yet much of adulthood requires carrying discomfort without collapse, waiting, uncertainty, rejection, delayed progress, misunderstanding. Thoughtful people learn to remain present with uncomfortable experiences long enough for better decisions to emerge. Remaining present with discomfort does not mean suppressing emotion. Suppression pushes feelings deeper without understanding them. The alternative involves observing emotions carefully, naming them, understanding their source, choosing responses intentionally. Observation creates distance. Distance creates freedom. The body plays a larger role than many realize. Physical tension influences mental reactions. Chronic exhaustion reduces patience. Neglected health weakens resilience. Emotional discipline becomes harder when the body carries constant strain. Caring for physical well-being supports thoughtful action indirectly. Rest improves judgment. Movement reduces accumulated stress. Consistent routines increase stability. Relationships reveal emotional habits quickly. Conflict becomes a mirror. Differences expose impatience. Expectations uncover insecurity. Instead of viewing conflict only as inconvenience, treat it as information. What does this reaction reveal about fears, values, or unresolved patterns? Questions create growth where blame creates repetition. Thoughtful action also means directing emotional energy somewhere useful. Frustration can motivate preparation. Disappointment can encourage adjustment. Anger can clarify boundaries. Difficult emotions contain energy. The question is whether that energy becomes destruction or direction. Imagine receiving criticism. One person becomes defensive and attacks back. Another shuts down completely. A third examines whether any truth exists within the feedback and uses it for improvement. The same event produces different futures because responses differ. Long-term outcomes often depend less on events and more on interpretations followed by actions. There are moments when choosing not to react immediately becomes your greatest demonstration of strength. Silence can communicate security. Restraint can preserve opportunities. Patience can reveal information unavailable during emotional intensity. Not every battle deserves participation. Not every misunderstanding requires immediate correction. This way of living changes how setbacks feel. Failures stop becoming proof of inadequacy. Delays stop becoming personal attacks. Difficult conversations stop feeling catastrophic. Internal steadiness increases because emotions no longer dictate every conclusion. Growth appears gradually. First, the pause between feeling and action becomes slightly longer. Then recovery after frustration becomes faster. Then difficult situations lose some power. Eventually, challenges that once caused emotional explosions become manageable. Progress often arrives quietly. There will still be mistakes. Days of impatience. Moments where old habits return. Do not transform setbacks into identity. Learning continues through correction. Strong people are not those who avoid every error. Strong people return to discipline repeatedly. Imagine the version of yourself that responds thoughtfully under pressure. That version does not disappear during difficulty. That version remains available even now. Building that person requires repetition more than inspiration. Daily choices matter. Small acts matter. Tiny moments of restraint matter. A calmer response today may protect a relationship years from now. One measured decision may preserve respect. One thoughtful action may create opportunities emotional reactions would destroy. Consequences extend farther than moments suggest. The world will continue presenting reasons to react emotionally. Unfairness will appear. Expectations will break. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will shift unexpectedly. Waiting for life to become easier before developing emotional discipline creates endless delay. Your greatest advantage may become something others overlook. The ability to remain deliberate while others become consumed by reaction. The ability to choose actions aligned with principles instead of temporary emotion. The ability to think clearly while pressure rises. That ability becomes a form of power because it cannot easily be shaken by external events. It belongs to you. It grows through practice. It strengthens through repetition. Eventually, you may notice something remarkable. Problems still exist, yet they create less internal damage. Difficult moments still happen, yet recovery comes faster. Emotions remain, but they stop controlling direction. Life becomes less about surviving reactions and more about creating responses. And that shift changes more than behavior. It changes identity. You stop becoming someone remembered for emotional outbursts and start becoming someone known for clarity, steadiness, and thoughtful action when it matters most. Chapter 7. Strengthen self-control through difficult emotional moments. Self-control becomes real when your emotions are intense, and you still choose the right response. Anyone can stay calm on an easy day. The true test comes when you feel hurt, challenged, ignored, or overwhelmed. That is when self-control is not just a good idea. It becomes a necessary skill. Difficult emotional moments reveal what still needs training inside you. They show where your patience is thin, where your habits are weak, and where your thoughts become messy under pressure. This is not a reason for shame. It is a reason to grow. The person who learns to hold steady during hard moments becomes stronger in every part of life. Self-control does not mean you stop feeling deeply. It does not mean you become cold. It does not mean you hide every emotion until it turns into silent pressure. Real self-control means you feel the emotion clearly and still choose your conduct with care. That choice is where strength is built. It is easy to react when your body is tense and your mind feels crowded. It is harder to pause, breathe, and decide not to make the moment worse. Yet that harder choice is the one that protects your future. A difficult emotional moment often begins with one small trigger. Someone says something harsh. A plan collapses. A mistake becomes public. You feel disrespected or misunderstood. In that instant, the mind can move toward blame, defense, or collapse. If you follow the first impulse every time, your emotions start leading your life. But if you train yourself to stop at the first signal, you begin taking your power back. That pause is not empty. It is active discipline. It is the moment where your mind tells your feelings that they are being heard, but not obeyed without thought. One of the most useful habits is to slow your body before trying to solve the problem. Emotional control often fails when the body is in panic mode. Tight muscles and fast breathing make clear thinking harder. When pressure rises, take a slow breath and lower your shoulders. Relax your hands. Unclench your jaw. Sit down if needed. Step away from noise if possible. These small physical actions tell your nervous system that you are not in immediate danger. Once the body becomes less tense, the mind can think more clearly. This is a simple practice, but it carries a great deal of power. It also helps to separate the feeling from the decision. You may feel angry, but anger is not a command. You may feel embarrassed, but embarrassment does not get to decide your next move. You may feel rejected, but rejection does not define your worth. A difficult emotional moment can make everything feel final and urgent. It is not final. It is not always accurate either. The feeling is real, but the conclusion may be wrong. Self-control grows when you stop treating every emotion as a verdict. Another part of self-control is learning to speak less while the emotion is still hot. Words spoken in pain can leave scars that last much longer than the moment itself. If you know your emotions rise quickly, then create a rule for yourself. Do not answer immediately when you are upset. Do not make major choices when your mind is flooded. Do not send messages while your heart is racing. Give the situation time to cool. Time does not solve everything, but it often makes the mind less reckless. Many people avoid regret simply by waiting long enough for better judgment to return. Difficult emotions also expose the stories you tell yourself. A small mistake can quickly become proof that you are failing. A delay can become proof that nothing works out. A disagreement can become proof that people cannot be trusted. These stories make the emotional moment heavier than it needs to be. Train yourself to question those thoughts. Ask what is fact and what is interpretation. Ask what part of the story is based on fear. Ask whether the moment deserves the meaning you are giving it. That kind of self-questioning is not weakness. It is mental discipline. There will be times when the emotion feels stronger than your usual strength. That is normal. Do not make one difficult moment into a statement about your character. Everyone faces moments that challenge their balance. What matters is what you do next. Self-control is often built after failure. You lose it for a moment, you reflect, you learn, you return with better awareness. That process is not less valuable because it is imperfect. In many cases, it is how real maturity begins. Another useful practice is to identify your most common triggers. Some people lose control when they feel ignored. Others react strongly to criticism. Some become overwhelmed when plans change. Some struggle most when they are tired or hungry. Notice your pattern. When you know your weak points, you can prepare for them. Preparation gives you an advantage. It allows you to step into hard moments with more awareness and less surprise. A person who knows their own patterns can stop a reaction earlier than someone who never studies themselves. It also matters to choose your environment carefully. Emotional control becomes harder in chaos. Constant noise, too much conflict, endless comparison, no rest, no quiet. These things make difficult emotions harder to manage. Create small spaces in your day where your mind can settle. Read something calm. Sit in silence. Go for a walk. Put your phone away for a while. These moments give your inner life room to breathe. A stronger self is often built in quiet places. When you are in a painful moment, ask yourself what kind of person you want to be right now. Not what you feel like being, what you want to be. That question brings your values back into the room. It reminds you that feelings are temporary while character is built over time. You may feel disappointed but still choose honesty. You may feel angry but still choose respect. You may feel afraid but still choose courage. That is self-control in action. It is not about denying emotion. It is about refusing to let emotion strip you of your standards. Difficult moments also teach humility. They remind you that strength is not something you own forever without maintenance. It must be practiced, it must be guarded, it must be renewed. Some days will go well. Other days will test every bit of discipline you have. Use both kinds of days well. On good days, build habits. On hard days, prove them. The goal is not perfection. The goal is reliable growth. One of the clearest signs of self-control is the ability to recover quickly. A person who masters difficult emotional moments does not stay trapped in them for too long. They feel the pressure. They respond with care. Then they return to balance. That recovery matters because it keeps one moment from spreading into the rest of the day. A short mistake does not have to become a full collapse. A hard conversation does not have to destroy your entire mood. Recovery is a skill and it can become faster with practice. Self-control also grows when you stop expecting every emotional moment to feel comfortable. Some moments are supposed to be hard. Some moments require restraint. Some moments ask you to sit with discomfort without escaping into anger or complaint. That is part of becoming emotionally mature. You learn that discomfort is not always a threat. Sometimes it is simply part of growth. When you can remain steady through discomfort, you become less fragile and more dependable. There is deep value in building a reputation with yourself for staying steady. Every time you handle a difficult emotional moment, well, you strengthen trust inside your own mind. You begin to believe in your ability to stay clear under pressure. That trust changes how you face future challenges. You become less afraid of your own reactions because you have evidence that you can guide them. This inner trust is one of the strongest foundations a person can have, so when the next difficult moment arrives, do not rush to prove how strongly you feel. Prove how well you can govern yourself. Pause. Breathe. Think clearly. Speak with care. Choose action over impulse. Choose discipline over reaction. Choose the future over the temporary storm. Each time you do this, you become stronger. Each time you do this, you become calmer. Each time you do this, you become a person who is longer controlled by emotional pressure, but guided by inner strength. Chapter 8. Develop emotional resilience by choosing silence wisely. One of the most powerful decisions you will ever make is learning when silence protects your strength better than words ever could. Many people fear silence because they believe silence means weakness. They think staying quiet means losing. They think immediate responses prove confidence. Yet some of the strongest people are not those who always speak first. They are the ones who understand timing. They know when words create clarity and when words create damage. Emotional resilience often grows in the space between feeling something deeply and choosing not to react impulsively. Silence is misunderstood because people often connect it with avoidance, but wise silence is different from fear. Wise silence is intentional, it is chosen, it is a form of self-command. It says this moment does not deserve all of my energy. It says I will not let temporary emotion decide permanent consequences. It says I care more about preserving my peace than proving my point. Emotional resilience means you can face disappointment, criticism, pressure, and misunderstanding without collapsing internally. It does not mean you become unaffected by life. It means you recover, you remain grounded, you continue moving forward. Silence plays an important role in this because silence interrupts emotional momentum. It creates space where judgment can return. Imagine someone speaks to you unfairly. The first impulse may be defense. The second impulse may be attack. The mind begins preparing arguments before understanding the full situation. At that moment, silence becomes protection. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you choose not to hand your emotions complete control over your behavior. Silence gives your mind time to separate pain from wisdom. Many regrets begin with unnecessary words. Sentences spoken during frustration often survive longer than the emotion that created them. A moment passes, but consequences remain. Trust weakens. Relationships shift. Respect changes. Silence has prevented countless mistakes people never notice because nothing dramatic happened. Quiet restraint rarely receives attention, yet it protects futures. There is a hidden skill within silence. It allows observation. When you stop rushing to respond, you begin noticing more. You notice tone, patterns, intentions, your own assumptions. Information appears when urgency disappears. Emotional resilience increases because understanding becomes more important than immediate reaction. People often believe every criticism requires defense. Every misunderstanding requires correction. Every disagreement requires participation. This belief creates exhaustion. Not all situations deserve your explanation. Not every opinion deserves your emotional investment. Choosing where to place attention becomes easier when self-worth stops depending on constant validation. Silence also reveals your relationship with discomfort. Many speak quickly because uncertainty feels unbearable. They want resolution immediately. They want reassurance. They want control. Remaining quiet during uncertainty can feel difficult because it removes temporary relief. Yet staying present without rushing teaches emotional endurance. Endurance strengthens resilience. Think about how often people interrupt their own growth by reacting too soon. They quit before progress appears. They leave relationships before understanding develops. They abandon goals because frustration arrives. Immediate reaction feels natural, but resilience often requires staying long enough for clarity to emerge. Silence supports patience. Patience supports better choices. There is another reason silence matters. It protects your energy. Constant emotional expression drains attention. Repeated arguments consume focus. Defending yourself everywhere becomes exhausting. Energy spent proving yourself cannot be used for building yourself. Emotional resilience includes conserving resources for what truly matters. This does not mean becoming passive. Silence should not become avoidance of necessary conversations. Some situations require honesty, some require boundaries, some require difficult truths spoken clearly. Wisdom lies in recognizing timing. Speak when words serve purpose. Stay quiet when speech only multiplies confusion. The ability to tolerate being misunderstood for a short period demonstrates unusual strength. Many rush to explain because they fear judgment. Yet, emotional resilience increases when identity becomes less dependent on immediate approval. You stop chasing agreement from everyone. You become more comfortable standing in your values even when misunderstood temporarily. Silence creates another opportunity: reflection. Reflection asks deeper questions. Why did this situation affect me strongly? What expectation was hidden beneath my reaction? What fear became activated? Reflection transforms experiences into lessons. Without reflection, patterns repeat unnoticed. Some emotional wounds stay open because people never allow silence long enough for understanding. Noise becomes distraction. Constant talking prevents deeper examination. Silence creates room where unresolved thoughts surface. This process may feel uncomfortable. Growth often does. The relationship between silence and confidence deserves attention. Insecure people sometimes speak excessively to prove certainty. Secure people understand they do not need immediate expression to confirm worth. Confidence appears in calm presence as much as in speech. Sometimes more. Modern life makes silence us difficult. Notifications arrive constantly. Opinions appear everywhere. Reactions happen publicly within seconds. Speed becomes normal. Yet emotional resilience rarely develops in endless stimulation. It develops where pauses exist. Quiet moments become training grounds for stability. Choosing silence wisely also means becoming selective about internal dialogue. Silence is not only external. Many minds remain noisy through endless self-criticism, replayed conversations, imagined conflicts, and repeated worries. Internal silence matters too. Learning to stop feeding every anxious thought creates emotional space. Space allows healing. Healing deserves mention because resilience does not mean carrying pain without acknowledgement. Pain ignored often returns differently. Silence becomes useful when paired with honesty. Honest awareness without immediate reaction creates growth. Suppressed emotion creates pressure. Observed emotion creates understanding. There may be moments when silence feels lonely, especially if you are used to seeking immediate comfort through expression. Yet, temporary loneliness often teaches self-reliance. You begin realizing not every emotional experience requires external rescue. Some experiences strengthen you through private processing. Another lesson emerges with time. Silence helps distinguish what is urgent from what only feels urgent. Many situations lose intensity after hours or days. Reactions that once seemed necessary appear unnecessary later. Perspective changes. Emotional resilience grows because fewer moments feel catastrophic. Observe people who remain composed during pressure. They often carry a different relationship with silence. They pause before answering. They consider before deciding. Their calm influences environments around them. This steadiness is developed, not inherited. Repeated restraint builds capacity. Capacity matters because life will continue presenting difficult experiences. Loss, delay, rejection, change, criticism, uncertainty. Emotional resilience does not remove these realities. It changes your relationship with them. Challenges stop defining your entire internal state. Recovery becomes faster. Perspective returns sooner. Silence can become a shield, but shields exist for protection, not permanent hiding. Use silence to regain clarity. Use silence to avoid unnecessary harm. Use silence to observe. Then speak when speech aligns with values rather than emotion alone. Your future self will benefit from moments when you remained quiet instead of reactive. Relationships may survive because restraint appeared at the right time. Opportunities may remain because patience interrupted impulse. Respect may deepen because composure replaced emotional urgency. There is profound strength in knowing you could respond immediately but choose not to. Knowing you could argue but decide peace matters more. Knowing you could react loudly but understand calm creates better outcomes. That is not weakness, that is mastery. Over time, something changes. Silence stops feeling empty, it starts feeling powerful. Not because it solves everything instantly, but because it protects your ability to think clearly during emotional storms. Clear thinking changes decisions. Decisions shape lives. Eventually you realize emotional resilience is not built during comfortable moments. It grows during uncomfortable ones, when old habits ask for reaction and you choose awareness instead. It grows when disappointment arrives and you remain steady. It grows when criticism appears and identity remains intact. The person who learns silence wisely does not become distant from life. That person becomes less controlled by it, less shaken by temporary noise, less dependent on immediate expression. And in a world full of constant reaction, the ability to remain calm, quiet, and deliberate may become one of the rarest strengths a person can possess. Chapter 9. Build inner stability despite stress, pressure, and conflict. Your greatest victory in life may not come from defeating external challenges, but from remaining steady while pressure tries to break you from the inside. Every person faces seasons filled with stress. Responsibilities increase. Expectations become heavy. Relationships become difficult. Plans change without warning. Conflict appears where peace once existed. During these periods, many people believe stability comes from removing every problem. Yet life rarely offers complete control over circumstances. The stronger path is different. Build something inside yourself that remains stable even when the environment becomes uncertain. Inner stability is not emotional numbness. It does not mean problems stop affecting you. It means your identity does not collapse every time discomfort enters your life. It means difficult moments create strain without destroying direction. This difference matters because many people spend years reacting to pressure rather than preparing for it. Stress changes the way people think. Under pressure, the mind often becomes narrow. Small problems feel larger. Patience decreases, future worries multiply, decisions become rushed. If stress remains constant long enough, reactivity begins feeling normal. This is dangerous because people adapt to tension and forget what calm feels like. Building inner stability starts with recognizing that pressure is not always the enemy. Pressure reveals. It reveals habits. It reveals weak foundations. It reveals where emotional dependence exists. A difficult season can expose patterns hidden during easier times. Exposure creates opportunity. You cannot strengthen what remains unseen. One important question deserves attention during stressful periods. Ask yourself whether you are responding to reality or responding to fear about reality. These are different experiences. Reality may involve one problem. Fear often creates 10 additional imagined problems. The mind can become overwhelmed by scenarios that have not happened. Learning this distinction protects emotional energy. Conflict intensifies instability because conflict often touches identity. Feeling misunderstood, feeling criticized, feeling dismissed. These experiences create internal movement. Yet, not every disagreement threatens your worth. Sometimes conflict simply reflects differences in perspective, priorities, or communication. Treating every disagreement as personal injury increases suffering unnecessarily. There is strength in becoming less dependent on perfect conditions. Some people require everything around them to feel orderly before they can remain calm, but life shifts constantly. Unexpected events arrive. Delays happen. People disappoint. Inner stability develops when peace becomes less tied to circumstances and more connected to values. Values provide direction during confusion. When stress increases, ask what principles matter most. Honesty, patience, responsibility, discipline, compassion. Values become anchors. Anchors matter because emotions fluctuate. Circumstances fluctuate. Principles create continuity. Another overlooked source of stability is routine. Consistent habits create structure when life feels unpredictable. Waking at similar times, caring for physical health, completing small responsibilities, maintaining simple practices. These actions seem ordinary, yet ordinary habits often support extraordinary resilience. Stability grows through repeated behaviors more than dramatic breakthroughs. People underestimate the effect unresolved conflict has on internal peace. Carrying resentment consumes attention. Avoiding necessary conversations creates tension. Replaying arguments strengthens emotional exhaustion. Address conflict thoughtfully when needed. Not every disagreement requires prolonged emotional investment. At times, stress convinces people they must solve everything immediately. Urgency becomes constant. Yet few problems improve through panic. A stable mind distinguishes between what requires action now and what requires patience. This distinction proves unnecessary overwhelm. Mona's stability also changes your relationship with uncertainty. Uncertainty creates discomfort because outcomes remain unknown. Many attempt controlling uncertainty through overthinking. Overthinking often produces fatigue without clarity. Stability grows when uncertainty becomes tolerable rather than terrifying. You learn to continue moving despite incomplete answers. Observe how trees respond during strong winds. The rigid branches break more easily. The flexible branches bend. Emotional flexibility supports resilience. Stability is not rigid resistance against every challenge. It includes adaptation. It includes adjusting expectations. It includes accepting reality without surrendering effort. Self-awareness becomes essential during pressure. Notice how stress affects your behavior. Does patience decrease? Does withdrawal increase? Does criticism feel sharper? Patterns reveal where support is needed. Awareness prevents automatic repetition. The body carries stress too. Chronic tension influences thought. Exhaustion changes emotional capacity. Ignoring physical well-being weakens mental stability over time. Rest deserves respect. Nourishment matters. Movement helps release accumulated pressure. Caring for the body supports inner steadiness indirectly but significantly. Many people seek external reassurance constantly during difficult seasons. Approval, validation, certainty from others. While support has value, dependence creates vulnerability. Stability deepens when reassurance also comes from within. Trusting your ability to endure challenges changes how pressure feels. There is wisdom in reducing unnecessary complexity during stressful periods. Simplify where possible. Fewer commitments, clear priorities, focused attention. Complexity increases mental load. Simplicity creates room for recovery. Building inner stability requires learning how to recover after emotional disruption. Recovery matters because difficult experiences remain unavoidable. Stability does not mean never feeling shaken. It means returning to balance more efficiently. Recovery becomes a skill through practice. Think about previous challenges survived. At one point, those experiences may have felt impossible, yet you continued. Evidence of resilience already exists within your history. Remembering this matters because stress often creates amnesia regarding personal strength. Difficult moments convince people they have never endured hardship before. Memory restores perspective. Conflict with others sometimes mirrors conflict within yourself. Strong reactions may reveal unmet expectations, hidden fears, or unresolved insecurities. Viewing reactions with curiosity rather than shame transforms conflict into information. There will be periods when progress feels invisible. Stability develops quietly. Perhaps you recover faster after setbacks. Perhaps criticism affects you less. Perhaps pressure no longer destroys entire days. Small shifts deserve recognition. Growth often arrives gradually. Another important practice involves protecting attention. Constant exposure to chaos increases internal chaos. News cycles, arguments, endless stimulation, attention becomes fragmented. Fragmented attention weakens stability. Guard mental space intentionally. Stable people often possess an ability others overlook. They separate identity from temporary circumstances. Failure becomes an event rather than a definition. Conflict becomes an experience rather than proof of worthlessness. This separation preserves dignity during hardship. Pressure tests priorities. During difficult seasons, ask what truly deserves concern. Many worries lose significance when viewed against long-term values. Perspective reduces unnecessary suffering. Inner stability changes relationships too. Calm people influence environments. Their steadiness reduces escalation. Their presence creates safety. This does not mean they avoid difficult conversations. It means they enter them with less internal chaos. Life will continue presenting unpredictable situations, financial strain, disappointment, misunderstanding, delays, change. Waiting for a problem-free existence before becoming stable creates endless postponement. Stability must develop alongside imperfection. There may be moments when stress feels overwhelming despite every effort. During those times, reduce expectations temporarily. Focus on the next right action rather than solving everything. Small steps preserve momentum. Momentum preserves hope. Hope deserves mention because stability does not mean emotional flatness. Hope provides direction through difficulty, not unrealistic optimism. Grounded belief that hardship can be endured and growth remains possible. The person you become through pressure matters more than the pressure itself. Challenges shape character when approached consciously. Stress can deepen wisdom. Conflict can improve communication. Difficulty can strengthen discipline. Suffering alone does not create growth. Reflection transforms experience into development. Eventually, something changes within people who commit to this work. Problems remain, yet panic decreases. Conflict appears, yet identity remains intact. Stress arrives, yet decisions become less reactive. Stability begins feeling familiar. That familiarity creates freedom because emotional weather stops controlling every aspect of life. A difficult day remains a difficult day rather than becoming proof everything is falling apart. Perspective widens. Recovery accelerates. Stability is built through hundreds of ordinary choices. Choosing reflection over panic, choosing values over impulse, choosing consistency over chaos, choosing patience when answers remain unclear. One day you may notice that situations which once overwhelmed you no longer carry the same power, not because life became easier, but because you became steadier. Pressure still exists, conflict still appears, stress still visits. But something inside you learned how to remain standing, and when your inner world becomes stronger than external turbulence, you discover a form of resilience no circumstance can easily take away. Chapter 10. Practice emotional discipline to earn respect and clarity. The way you handle your emotions in difficult moments quietly decides how much respect you earn from others and how much clarity you keep for yourself. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing feelings or pretending everything is fine. It is about learning how to carry emotion without letting it distort your behavior, your speech, or your judgment. Many people misunderstand this and believe respect comes from being loud, expressive, or forceful in every situation. But in reality, respect often moves toward those who remain composed when others lose control. Clarity also belongs to those who do not allow emotional noise to rewrite their thinking. When a person reacts without discipline, their attention becomes narrow. They see only the trigger, not the full picture. A single comment can feel like an attack. A delay can feel like rejection. A disagreement can feel like disrespect. In that emotional state, responses become rushed and incomplete. Words come out faster than understanding. Decisions form before reflection. This is where clarity begins to disappear. And once clarity is gone, respect often follows it. Emotional discipline begins with the ability to pause before responding. That pause is not silence for its own sake. It is space where understanding can return. In that space, you can separate fact from interpretation. You can recognize whether you are reacting to reality or reacting to your assumptions about reality. This distinction alone can change the outcome of many situations. A large amount of unnecessary conflict in life comes from reacting to imagined intentions rather than actual behavior. Respect is often shaped by consistency in emotional behavior. People notice patterns. If someone reacts sharply every time there is pressure, others begin to walk carefully around them. Communication becomes limited. Trust weakens. But when a person remains steady even in tension, others feel safer in their presence. They feel understood, not threatened. That safety naturally builds respect without force. Emotional discipline also protects your own clarity when dealing with people. Conversations become more productive when they are not driven by emotional escalation. Instead of trying to win a moment, you begin trying to understand the situation. Instead of reacting to tone, you focus on meaning. This shift reduces misunderstandings and improves communication. Many conflicts do not come from what is said, but from how quickly it is responded to. There is also a quiet strength in not matching emotional intensity with emotional intensity. When someone speaks from frustration, matching that energy usually increases confusion. Emotional discipline allows you to lower the temperature of the situation instead of raising it. This does not mean accepting unfair behavior. It means responding in a way that keeps your thinking intact while addressing the issue clearly. Clarity grows when emotions are observed instead of followed. Observation creates distance. Distance creates understanding. When you can notice your anger without becoming it, you gain the ability to choose how to act. When you can feel disappointment without collapsing into it, you maintain perspective. That perspective is what allows better decisions to form. Without it, emotions become the only voice in the room. Many people lose respect for themselves before others lose respect for them. This happens when emotional reactions lead to regret. Words spoken too quickly, decisions made in frustration, or messages sent without reflection create situations that feel difficult to repair. Emotional discipline reduces these moments of self-regret. Each time you respond thoughtfully instead of impulsively, you strengthen trust in your own judgment. Respect from others is not only about how you treat them, it is also about how you handle yourself under pressure. People observe how you respond when things do not go your way. They notice whether you become defensive, reactive, or stable. Over time, these observations form an impression. A disciplined emotional presence communicates reliability. It shows that your actions are not controlled by temporary feelings. Clarity in life also depends on how much emotional noise you allow into your decision-making. When emotions are loud, priorities become unclear. Small problems feel large. Long-term thinking becomes harder. Emotional discipline reduces that noise. It allows space for calm reasoning to return. In that space, decisions become more aligned with long-term goals instead of short-term reactions. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is delaying emotional expression when the feeling is intense. This does not mean avoiding communication. It means choosing timing wisely. Speaking after reflection often produces clearer and more effective communication. Acting after emotional intensity has passed usually leads to better outcomes. Many mistakes in life are not caused by lack of knowledge, but by lack of timing. There is also a difference between emotional honesty and emotional control. Honesty is acknowledging what you feel. Control is choosing how and when to express it. You can be honest without being destructive. You can express truth without losing composure. Emotional discipline brings these two together. It allows you to stay real without becoming reactive. Respect also grows when people see that you are not easily pulled into unnecessary emotional conflicts. Not every situation requires full emotional investment. Not every disagreement requires immediate reaction. Not every comment deserves deep emotional response. Learning to identify what truly matters protects your energy. It also prevents others from unintentionally controlling your emotional state. As emotional discipline strengthens, clarity becomes more stable, even during stressful situations. You start noticing that difficult moments no longer distort your entire perspective. A problem remains a problem, but it no longer defines your entire mental state. This separation between experience and identity is a key part of emotional maturity. It is also important to recognize that emotional discipline is not built in a single moment. It is built through repetition in small daily choices. Choosing not to respond immediately when triggered. Choosing to reflect before reacting. Choosing calm language during tension. Choosing understanding over assumption. Each of these choices strengthens your ability to remain steady. Over time, something subtle changes. You stop needing to prove yourself in every emotional moment. You stop reacting to every challenge as if it threatens your identity. You start responding from a place of clarity instead of pressure. That shift is what creates lasting respect. People trust those who are not ruled by emotional instability. Emotional discipline also creates internal peace that does not depend on external validation. When you are not constantly reacting, your mind becomes less crowded. Thoughts become more organized. Decisions feel less confusing. You begin to experience a sense of control over your internal world, even when external situations are uncertain. There will still be moments when emotion strongly. That is part of being human. Emotional discipline does not remove emotion. It gives you the ability to stand above it, instead of being carried away by it. Each time you succeed in doing that, your confidence in yourself increases. Each time you fail and return to awareness, your resilience strengthens. In the end, emotional discipline is not about being less human. It is about becoming more aware, more thoughtful, and more intentional in how you respond to life. Respect is not demanded through intensity. It is earned through steadiness. Clarity is not found in emotional extremes. It is found in controlled awareness. When you master this, you no longer feel controlled by every passing emotion. You become someone whose presence brings stability. Someone whose words carry weight because they are chosen carefully. Someone whose actions reflect thought rather than impulse. And that is where real respect begins, and where true clarity becomes a constant part of your life.